Yeah, that's much better. My name is Letabo Ramukhopa. I'm going to be your facilitator and moderator tonight. It's that one. Yes. Apologies for that one. Another thing I must apologize for is our time management. This program was supposed to have started at 7:30. It's 8:15. Mara, just for tonight, we'll say it's 7:30 right now so that we are able to run swiftly along. I don't want this to be a conversation between me and the panelists, so I'm going to encourage participation from each one of you in the audience. So before I delve deeper into what we are here for, I'm going to give my panelists an opportunity to introduce themselves so that you also can get familiar with their voices and age before beauty. We will start with the gentleman.
Ke a leboga Moswara Marapo. Nna ke nna Khetla Chipapi Magato. Ke nna moswantšhiši e le go yena visual artist. Ebile ke ngwala tša bogabo. Ke lebeletše tšona tša visual arts le theatre. Gape ke na le mokgatlo o le goreng goba organization e ke ithomileng ya weta e ruta basic skills of art in villages, especially the villages that I come from. And I have been doing that for the past 11 years. So I suppose that explains who I am.
Nice one. Welcome, Mr. Khetla Chipapi Magato. It's a pleasure to have you here. It's just that you are very moderate about yourself. You are not saying anything about the international what. My artwork is exhibited to go to New York, go to Paris. Hey.
Wabana Kina na ke araba putso ya gago ba. Ke sa rabe tšeo di bolelang. So o se tša tlhalositše ka mokgwa o ne wa tlhalositše ka ona.
Hi everyone. My name is Musima Rasisemola. Professionally, I am an advocate of the High Court. So I go to court very often. I also do a lot of commentary in the media about legal subjects. So I interact with communities a lot on our radio stations and our TV channels talking about matters that are in the public interest about the law. But also because of my foundations in student activism and politics, I'm also a social activist with very keen interest in subjects such as the law, how families are organized and how we navigate our way through spaces, especially in the township or rural areas, but also the subject of feminism. I am a feminist and very proud at that. So I practice as a lawyer, but I'm also a social activist. Thank you.
Yes, that's a very smart way. I was just about to say, let's avoid the clapping. Let's snap tonight, just so that we're able to have control over the conversation. Ma'am?
Dumelang. Hello. Kemasa Chaba Wahamului. I am a cultural cultivator. I believe so much in our culture and art that I believe that there are so many tools within them. They teach us about who we are, who we can be, who we were once upon a time. So a lot of the time that Sam and I, we run a collective called Lima Management, which focuses on artist management and production, really, because no one takes care of our artists. And administration is the hardest part of it, you know, making invoices, trying to get how you really rate people, trying to get recognized. So we work a lot in making sure that Black artists are treated accordingly, and they're seen accordingly, but also that they're not misrepresented. And so a lot of my work focuses on what now I think in academia they call the third space or the third place, whereas the alternative informal places where we make business and we make art and we make life and culture. And those places in themselves are very rarely appreciated and respected, like how we've designed the exhibition to be a shebeen. And in some way, they've brought us all to school. When you think of people who sell alcohol and anything, there's so many of us who've gone to school through those informal ways of working, really. So our focus is trying to do art that speaks to our people and art that really takes apart the visual, the conversation, and the performance of it all, because not all of us read the same way. None of us hear the same way, none of us see the same way. So all of our art, we try not to subject Black people and not have them at the table. Makes no sense to create a project, but and so we really try to make it relevant and relatable for our people. But essentially, I guess I'm a project coordinator and a curator, to put it in any sort of box. But really, I think, yeah, cultivating our culture from point A to what we wear, how we speak, how we perform ourselves is very important and central to the work that I do, I guess.
I just want to ask, was that audible enough? Could you hear Masechaba well? Are you sure? Because she's going to be talking quite a lot. Each one of you that's here is a very important person, and I welcome you once again. And we are here courtesy of the Polokwane municipality and in partnership with the Goethe Institute. So it is a pleasure and an honor to actually be present here on the 9th annual literary fair. We've missed the space. It's been almost a year and a half or 2 years without engaging with each other. So I'm very happy to see quite a lot of you, familiar faces. We are going to have a lot of fun tonight. And personally, I have a very important individual that's joining us. You know, you go through those moments where the mummies are sending, please vote for my daughter. And then you check it out and you can't say, Mom, but because when you look at the daughter, she's like, oh, cute. So you do vote. So I'd like to welcome, she's Miss Limpopo Province Junior Finalist, and she's also Miss Capricorn District Teen Category Finalist, and her name is Bokang Musilenyane. Please stand up and wave, Nana. The reason for that, I think it's important that we acknowledge the young ones. It's very good that they are present, and I think actually all of them, let's have the tiny bodies, let's see them so that we can make them feel special. All of them. Everybody that's under the age of 18, please stand up and let's welcome you and appreciate your presence. Yes, look at that little one, she's got his hand up like this. I've got a cash prize for 1,000. Don't ask me whether it's in dollars or rands or cents, but just know that it's 1,000. By the show of hands, if you're dressed by a local artist or designer, local, I'm talking Limpopo, who are you dressed by? Oh, okay. Are you an artist? Did you make? So what you're wearing is, you made it yourself. Fantastic. Somebody else? Are you the only one who's representing Limpopo artists? Really? 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 You ought to be ashamed of yourselves, each one of you, because maybe I should stand up so that you can take a look at it. This dress was handcrafted by this gentleman next to me. So I thought I'll be the only one. So it's 1,000 cents that I'm giving away. So had it been me, I would have said 1,000 rand. But you take the 1,000 cents. So let's delve straight into this conversation. What is feminism? Is the question. Ke feminism yamang? Who does it belong to? And I think for tonight, also for the kids, language. When we talk about PG. Parents, when you get home, please explain certain things because I don't want us to restrict our conversation. We're going to talk about the vagina. We're going to talk about fucking. We're going to get extreme if needs be in conversation. But I really beg that parents take the time to engage with the children when it comes to such conversations, especially when it gets vulgar. So I'm not saying like take the mic and just go buck wild. I'm just saying that you are not restricted per se in terms of language because it's a very sensitive issue and certain messages must be driven blatantly. So by the show of hands, who are feminists? Do we have any feminists in the house? Ah, look at that. That guy is like, no, he's... The gentleman is like this. Any feminists in the house?
I see only women, gentlemen.
Okay, all right. I think, Master, with this one, let's take it from you, and I'd like the mic to be roving as well. Let's delve into the definition. I mean, when I was doing my research, actually before we do that, I'm going to make a huge mistake because on my program, we are supposed to be welcomed by Hope Nechibambe, so she needs to come closer if she is present. But think about the question as it is your definition of feminism. So, Mastaba, you're going to be taking that, and then this is soon after Hope gives us a piece of. As she's coming up, do you have your mic, Hope? So Hope is an international storyteller who was born in Venda, South Africa, and she holds a marketing diploma from the Vaal University of Technology and a certificate in radio and TV presenting from Oakfields College, and she has performed her poetry in the South African State Theatre, the Market Theatre, and in Durban, Kimberley, Port Elizabeth, Cape Town, Tsakane, Mamelodi, Cosmos City, Vaal, Venda, and at schools, seminars, churches, and on radio stations and TV. And she's been published in Odd Magazine, March 2018 edition, and her poem Conjuring Art was selected for the Not a Single Story Art exhibition and was then published at the exhibition's tabloid newspaper featuring Dr. Esther Mahlangu. So actually, all of this, she's got an extensive profile. What we're going to do with your phones, you're going to actually be checking our link, and do tell your friends because we're streaming. That's the annual Polokwane Literary Fair 9th edition on YouTube. So make sure that your friends and family who are not present actually get to stream live and watch us. And Hope's profile for you as well will be posted much later. Hope, take it away, please.
Thank you. Somewhere in the world, someone is zooming in at your face, wondering what it must be like to be loved by you. So smile. Not everything is broken. Ndiche mtuku ndobani sa ofi zvikuru. Atongo shushedzwa nga zvitori zva zviguru. Ndovani chitouriwa. Ndichipangwa begeni yabewa ta wardrobe. Achachivona chiguru. a thi tendi kha zwiguru. Ndi ḓivha zwiṱori zwa vhukuma zwa zwithu zwo iteaho na zwine zwa khou itea. Ndi ḓivha salungano, zwiṱori zwa muliloni, tshakhakhuluma i vhukati i khou vhilisa maḓi a u ṱamba. Mawe vha khou tshaisa nga 7, vha ḓo vhuya nga vho 8. Ndi ḓivha uri khushumusi i tshi swika vhasidzana vhoṱhe vha ḓo yo lukiswa mavhudzi. Haya ndi mafhungo na zwiṱori zwine nda ḓivha. Ndi ḓivha ṱhamu. Ndi ḓivha uri vhundeṅwa vhu ya rwelwa. Ndi ḓivha tshuṅwahaya dzi sa gumi. Ndi ḓivha khonani sa mashaka. Malume vha ri a thi ḓivhi mashaka. Makhadzi na baba vho dzumba mashaka. Mara zwiphiri a zwi koni u fema zwi maswiswini. Honeha tshedzani a huna zwiphiri. Ndi ḓivha uri vhaṱhannga vha funiwa vha shandukisa matshimbilele. Vhasidzana vha funwa vha shandukisa madzulele. Ho vha na tshiṱori tsha uri khaladzi ya Marubini una mushonga wo ita uri vhasidzana vha mu fune. Zwo ita uri vhasidzana vha mu shavhe. No no vhuya na zwi vhona uri tshiṅwe tshifhinga ri funa lufuno u fhira vhathu. Ndi u silinga. Ri tshani u silinga. I watched my mother learn a new language in her old age. Her tongue did not startle in her mouth. I didn't know you could teach someone a language you were not fluent in. It was my father who taught my mother. He taught her syllables with his hands, taught her metaphors with his absence. He embedded jargons on her wrists, put an accent on her throat, loved it when she spoke, couldn't understand when she spoke, loved the sound of it anyway. My mother sounds like whipping when she speaks. The earth vibrates when tears fall from her face. Anger erupts in me when she is sad. I want to become lightning when she mourns. I want to strike my father on his chest, forbid him not to speak, although I have many questions. My tongue cannot move when I am raging anger towards him. He taught me a language too, one he is fluent in. His tongue cannot move when there is blood on the door handle. So he counts on his feet to walk away. My father is leaving, but he never takes his suitcase with him. Doesn't know how to be completely gone. Doesn't know how to stay. He hates the sight of blood. Our faces tore from all his walking away. So he cannot stand looking at us. I don't know what language or languages he was taught in when growing up, but I think he mastered them all. Your lover is a ghost. You are always reaching for air. You don't mind loneliness. You hate loneliness. So you tell yourself she just hasn't learned presence, that you will teach it to her. Even when you are tired of reaching, you are becoming a ghost too. The ones that love you cannot reach you either. You are always busy trying to mend some broken part on your lover's lips. There is always an older woman somewhere trying to teach herself silence because she has seen how abused women are treated. She was told that no one would believe her. So she's not sure anymore. Not sure if it actually happened. Wonders if she made it up in her mind somehow. Doesn't know how to tell away her bruises or the trauma of her memory. There is a younger woman somewhere learning to inherit that silence because she has seen how abused women are treated. She knows she will be interrogated more than her perpetrator, will be made to feel like she was the accomplice, that she asked for it somehow, that her body is a bait, that her body is a trigger, that her body is a sin, that her body caused a sin. There is always an attempt to explain away a man's deeds, to suggest he was possessed, to suggest it was a demon's doing, to suggest he is a decent man at heart. Forget about a man's apology or his remorse unless it is advised by his lawyer. And even then, notice how much of him it takes to spit it out of his mouth. You'd swear he's been separated from something dear to him, something he cannot do without. Notice how often women are told to learn how to dress better, but never anything to the man on how to behave better. Thank you.
Wow. I think we need to do that again. Let's give Hope a big round of applause. The rules were that we snapped through the night, but the emotions took the best of us and we're clapping. But there's so many things, Hope, that you said that are opening some wounds for so many of us in this room. I can just tell by just how everybody responds. So thank you for that. Before Hope actually joined us, I had asked the question, what is feminism? How do we understand it? And I took a dictionary definition of it, which is the advocacy of women's rights on the ground of the equality of the sexes. And then I asked, how many feminists do we have in the house? And there were just women. Mostly were women. There's a gentleman here with the white t-shirt. He was like, I'm also a feminist. But you can tell that he's not quite sure whether being a feminist means he's gay or not. Because there is that confusion that comes with it. So, Msima, let's engage in it. What's your understanding? Because you've declared yourself a feminist and a staunch one. So your understanding for somebody who doesn't understand what feminism is, can you indulge us, please?
Okay, so my definition, there's the scholarly definitional definition of feminism that we find in the dictionary. And the one that I like the most is when they really put it in the context of what it is in the context of a university or like when we're learning about it. So they'll say feminism is an ideology. And an ideology means that there's a series of ideas that we sort of have about what a thing is. So it's an ideology that essentially says that there has to be advocacy around issues of women, to say women actually require some form of representation. They require us to sit and think about their experiences, what their experiences are, and why they experience life the way they do. And so you start seeing words such as your toxic masculinity or patriarchy coming up in the text, and a whole area called gender studies that says, in the societies that we find ourselves in, this is why women are treated how they are treated. We usually say they are dominated, or they suffer oppression or subordination. And in essence, feminism is preoccupied with that, to say, why does our society place women where they place them? Is it right? Is it wrong? When is it right and when is it wrong? But feminism is also it's a living concept in that anyone can capture it for themselves and create whatever they want out of it. For me, for example, I was a feminist before I knew what a feminist is, because there are certain things I believed in about how, regardless of the fact that I'm a female, my voice should be heard, my ideas are valid, and I think my brothers should also wash the dishes. So those were just some of the key things that I really believed in, even before I could go to a definition of feminism. And then a few things happen to you when you are much older as a young woman, and then you start using feminism to sort of deal with the trauma. Because feminism also says to women, you are a human being. Outside of how people perceive you as a mother or a teacher or a sister or a daughter, you're still a human being. You still can make mistakes, and you still can do exceptional things without people looking at whether your makeup is good enough or whether your shoes are high enough or whatever. But you're a human being, and you're entitled to your mistakes and your victories and whatever it is. So in a nutshell.
No, there are no nuts here, so don't shell it. Let's just go on and on and on. So to the gentleman, your understanding of feminism and your stance when it comes to that term, what is it? There we go.
Okay, thank you so much. My understanding of feminism came about 5 years ago when I was reading a book on Queen Modjadji.
Okay.
And I realized in the book that there were other women of her contemporary who were leaders. I talk here of Queen Mantatisi,
Okay.
whom
Nice one.
I regard her as my grandmother. And I have since then been working with her in my mind.
Okay.
So the interest was on how the history, which is his story, sort of glorified men of that time, the Queen Mantatisi's time, at the expense of Queen Mantatisi's, or like women of that time.
Yes.
So then I started trying to understand how did the history omitted the role played by Mantatisi. Just to give a bit of background of who Mantatisi was. She was a Musia woman who married into the Batlokwa kingdom around 1800. So when the husband, who was a chief, who was Mukojo, died, their son, Sikonyela, was a minor at the time. So the family of the Mokojos did not want the throne to be held by Mantatisi,
A woman.
a woman. But similar thing occurred previously, where Ntlokulu, who was the mother to Mokojo, had her husband, Muntwedi, die when Mokojo was a minor.
Okay.
So Ntlokulu took the throne of the Batlokwa until Mokojo came of age. Then, but Mantatisi didn't really pay attention to the squabbles that were happening and the fight that she shouldn't take the throne. So she fought and said that she is going to be on the throne until Sekonyela come of age. And this, she was helped by Ntlokulu, who was the mother-in-law. So that for me was a very important political history of this country that is being omitted in the mainstream historical political studies or political recordings. So that awakened me to say, now that it took you so long to know about Mantatisi, what are you doing as a visual storyteller to take the name of Mantatisi to the world? And I applied to do MA at Wits, Masters in Fine Arts. And my research topic is on Mantatisi. I remember I was questioned during crit sessions or discussions. My colleagues who were women questioned my positionality on telling the story of Mantatisi. And the question was that, are you not perpetuating patriarchy in telling the story of Queen Mantatisi? My answer to them was that I am of the Batlokwa descent, meaning Batlokwa are my people.
Yes.
So I have every right to tell the story of Mantatisi. But it should not be confused with me speaking for Mantatisi or wanting to save women. In my work, I'm trying to revive and resuscitate the erasure of this black woman who led the Batlokwa kingdom and who really pushed King Moshoeshoe from his summit at Butabute to Koboshiani back in 1813. So she was the ruler between 1813 to 1824. Okay. So I suppose that sort of awakened me to feminism, and that's my understanding of feminism and using my work to really push the black women leadership of that time to the fore. Because you read about King Moshoeshoe. There is the whole historical, like he's the biographer who wrote about his life, wrote about King Moshoeshoe when he was still in his mother's womb. The ceremonies that were happening around that time. But you look at Queen Mantatisi, so little is written on her. So I took it upon myself to try to imagine her life. Like creatively, fictionally imagining her life using research that has been done on King Moshoeshoe, especially that they are the contemporaries. I suppose this answers your question.
Are you a feminist?
Well, I mean, it's a great question that I may not have the answer now, but I'm attracted to feminism
Okay.
and the work that women do. I don't know if that defines me as a feminist.
All right. Is he a feminist? Okay, let me have a mic. Let me have a mic so that I don't leave you out of this conversation. With by a show of one hand, there is Makhadi, and give her the mic. Let's hear your stance when it comes to. We're still at the definition stage. I mean, we're going to be delving deeper. Ke sa tlo bolela le mafeto a ka mo roomong. Yes, it's the terms that we are called out there, so we're going to use them loosely and lightly. So, Mohadi, what are you saying? What's your stance?
Okay, no, I'm saying Chipapa is a feminist.
Okay.
Looking at his work, and it did not, Chipapa did not start painting or doing his work like yesterday. The
Yes.
moment that I knew Chipapa, I knew that this one stands with us as women. If you look at his work, it's one of few of his work that he has dedicated to men. But most of his work speak for the woman and where we come from and where we should be going is depicted in his work. Look at his work, speaks feminism.
So basically, Chipapi doesn't want the fem part
That-
of nism, but in
Yes.
actual fact, he's a feminist.
Yeah, but his work shows for itself. Thank you.
I'm happy that you took us back to the 1800s because as I was reading more on this, I mean, Mas Chaba, with your work, it pushes you to delve deeper into where the concept comes from. And of recent times, I mean, it's only in South Africa where we're discussing Masima, the South Africa's Promotion of Equality and Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Act of 2000, which is not so long ago, where South Africans really took the time to start thinking about gender equality and really putting focus on it, which also brought that concept of going 50-50. And what I've noticed, what I've picked up is that that concept actually brought in the scourge of gender-based violence. I want to ask the audience as well and the panelists, what do you think happened when women stood up for equality and wanting to be recognized as equals to men? That the response was so violent, because currently we're dealing with 16 days of activism, we're dealing with gender-based violence, we're dealing with rape, I'm not saying it didn't happen pre-1994, but today we're dealing with it at an alarming rate. And the question is, if women are fighting to stand up for themselves, why is the response to that so violent? Ms. Chaba?
And does this still work? I think first it's really important to define that, and that's what the exhibition does. Within women, we need to speak to ourselves. It's much as like how we speak about race. You want white people in the room because there's something about race that is an experience that only someone who has even slightly experienced something similar to you can relate to. So as women, I think before we even ask men anything, and how the violence has increased, because then that brings in a political aspect of a man at night and a boy during the day. So in speaking about feminism, it's our relationship to ourselves. Who teaches us about ourselves? So one project that was meant to be a part of this exhibition, it was a video installation, you know, and it really just explored the experience of having a vagina, you know, and not to say what do men do to a vagina, but having a vagina is a different conversation to experiencing it or imagining it. So I think before we even go to asking anybody else about, you know, feminism, I think the real question deals with how do we experience it and how do we perform it and how do we relate to it. You know, I mean, if you think there's women who are considered to be completely masculine in their, if you're a quick decision maker, you're assumed to be masculine. But if you're a man who actually considers their mother, you won't be thought to be like feminine. You'll just be thought to be a mama's boy. But you know, that thing, that emotion in itself is gendered. I think that's where it sits. That we all have insecurities, we all have experiences where we feel small, and it doesn't matter which gender it comes from. Those exist, irrelevant. And I think for me, that's the beginning of the conversation. I don't think I can imagine the conversation above until I can just imagine the experience and the conversation for ourselves and each other.
Ms. May, I want to bring you into a concept here, but I would like to ask the audience. Ladies, how many of you know of a woman that was raped? Men, I think you need to take a look around. This is for women. How many women know of a woman that was raped
How many
before?
women are ashamed to say they know a woman who's been raped?
Well, yes,
Even
that's
as
also
women,
another.
we feel shame. Not just men will feel that shame.
Okay, let's have the hands up. Let's have the hands up. We know of someone who's been raped before, right? Okay. Men, by the show of hands, how many of you know of a man that has raped? Personally.
It's a hard question.
Personally.
Really. You're meant to be just honest about it. When you say you raped,
And I'm not talking about the one on TV, hey, not the guy in the movies.
This is scary, guy.
Let me see that again. There's like 4 or 5, and the majority of the room of women know of more women that's been raped. And I want to know why that is. Because there always seems to be that element where women know of someone that's been raped, but the men,
I think it goes back to our conversation yesterday. I think
so I want
as a
us to
lawyer-
engage in that conversation. Gentlemen, I would like you to come forth, actually. Let's talk about that. Do you as men discuss such an issue? Yesterday, Ms. May, we had a very interesting conversation about rape, and I want you to bring in the element of that physiological aspect of it before I put the mic to the audience.
Okay, so the thing about feminism is that it has personally empowered me to speak about the subject of rape because it's difficult to do when you have been a victim and are a survivor. Particularly because when you experience it as a thing that is happening to you, it really does take something away from you, whether you're a man or a woman experiencing rape. But the beautiful thing about feminism is that over time, when you engage it and when you come back into your body as a human being, you're able to reclaim your power in a very healthy way that is able to help you. And I think the nature of feminism, apart from the fact that we learn about it and as a theory, is that it permeates through or it enters the lives of women because we have to. Our lives sort of depend on us being feminist or carrying feminist ideas because that is how we survive. And that is also connected to how we conceive of the idea of rape and what rape is. So for a woman, rape is, you know, I really don't want this to happen right now. I really don't want to have sex with you right now. And that is rape that happens in intimate spaces, right? With your boyfriend, with your husband, with your male friend or female friend, right? And then for men, how I think sometimes, and I can't speak for men, it's merely something I've studied, I've seen in the work that we do as lawyers, but it's also something that I've seen from reading the text where other legal scholars speak about the subject of rape. In the mind of a man at times, I feel like there's a very blurry line between rape and sex, right? Because women are taught to submit themselves, so you are passive, you are being chased, I'm the woman, and oh, I don't want, but if she says no, she actually means yes, you must try harder. And I think that is how most of our boys are socialized, to say, you need to just push her a bit further, you get her there, right? So there's that aspect as well that we've programmed in our minds that that is how women react. And I've seen instances where a woman comes back from being with a guy who stopped when she said no, and then now she wants to ridicule the poor guy.
Dude, what's happening?
To say, yeah, when I say no, I mean you must try harder.
Oh,
you know,
my goodness.
That is the language. That is the different languages we've adopted as either men or women around the issue of sex, where men are the aggressors or the initiators, and then women are the receivers or those that are passive. And that language is problematic because the issue of consent is important. And not only is the issue of consent important, but we come into sex as very young people. And if we allow ourselves to carry the idea that, you know, when I say no, I'm saying try harder, then we're not teaching each other and we're not teaching ourselves the right thing. But that is when rape happens in an intimate setting. Whether it's like a father raping a child, we're in a relationship, we're in a marriage. In those instances, rape does happen. And it almost registers differently, whether you're a man or a woman. But then, of course, there's the very violent, aggressive type of rape where you don't even know this guy and he's aggressing you. And that is the space where we speak about rape seeming like exerting power, dominance. Because rape is not about sex. Rape is about power. Saying that regardless of the fact that the body is yours and it belongs to you, I can take for myself as I please. And we see it manifesting in the victim and how the victim literally feels like you have died and you have lost parts of yourself because your bodily autonomy is taken away from you.
Let me bring in the gentleman in the audience. Do men engage in this type of conversation? And I ask innocently as a woman because I know that as girls, we talk about everything and anything. And when you have your bosom buddy, you talk about the most intimate of things as well. But we never know whether banna leadula labulela or helili chesanyama is about cars and it's about girls and boobs. And do men engage in such conversations? Do you discuss rape? Do you discuss the effect and impact that has on women as brothers? Please, may I have a gentleman respond to that? No, I would like to show of hand, a mic, and then let me hear your opinion. Franz?
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Franz. Yes, Kenalidi Brothers J5. And Kareshu Aunamuna, meaning the father figures are the one, and I'm the older boy, meaning all my brothers, including my cousins, about the problems when it leads to women. Meaning, Maratwaga Widre, Unye Junala Masadi, and then Wabedi, Onal girlfriend, and then Wabararo, only the ex Levana, only
the baby mamas, baby mama drama.
Meaning, experience
yes.
from lifestyle and regular different places. Meaning, mostly go December or Nagorkopanangwarai or Nagweriata and stuff like that. It's where they can come to me, hey, bro, I have this kind of problem. And it's well or Nagohonova advisor. Understanding yak.
Okay.
Yeah. But we do have that kind of talks.
You do have that kind of talk.
Yeah.
Ketla, as men, do you engage each other on such topics?
I'm not going to speak for men, right? I'm going to just speak to the experience that I had. There was a a theater production that I attended sometime early this year or last year. So I found a line problematic in that play, where the guy was saying that it's an older man. The script was saying he should say, I don't look at the age. I take from 12 to 60, right? I had to really wait for the director who directed the play. After the play, and I went to him, I said, we have a problem in your play. And he said, what problem is that? I said, there is a line that I found it very problematic where your cast member is boasting that he doesn't look at age. He sleeps with women or girls or women from 12 to 60.
He's declaring himself a rapist, didn't you?
So he said, why is it problematic? I said, no, your line is promoting rape. And that's problematic. Please look at this line and really visit the entire context at which these people are discussing about sex. And the show was sort of traveling around. A friend of mine went to see the play. And the line was still there. And that worried me so much, because we can't be wanting people to come and support the arts when we are going to subject them to that humiliation.
Yes.
So that's my take.
I'd like to touch on that, just to follow up on what you're saying.
Sure.
I think that so often humans go through things, and I think we were speaking about this yesterday, why men don't respond to things about feminism. It's that, imagine you raped someone and you don't know that you did.
Yeah.
You know? Imagine someone from your high school, you're 30, 40 years old, and you thought you and your boys were going out and like this person. And so outside of what happens, there's the other side, because also when we focus so much on demonizing things, people will never take responsibility.
Yeah.
So to some extent, we need to actually just also be like, in what context did this happen?
Yeah.
How did it happen? You know, people say with race, it's like if you owned a slave 40 years ago versus owning a slave now. If you grew up in a slave family and people owned slaves, you thought owning a slave was dope. You know? So much like men, they prove themselves. If you look at fraternities, boys, like gangs, there is an assertion of that power. So if you're in that situation, what do you do as a gent? If you're standing outside a house, I think we spoke about this, and someone's raping someone inside the house, what do you do? You know, so I think, like, how did you end up in that situation, and why did you make the decision that you made? Because once we can understand that, we can untangle. But if we continue on only we don't take the consideration of you also are a human behind this action, you know, then we're really going in circles between women and men. Like, we're never going to find some sort of way to talk about it without saying, young boys, if you've gone through something, tell us. Young women, young men, but then they grow up to be men who just don't talk about anything. So how do we even expect that they know how to talk about stuff? No one taught you how to talk.
Yeah, I just also, because before we entered this part of the discussion, you said, when we speak about gender-based violence, why do men respond with so much violence?
Yes.
Right? And again, I don't speak for men, but it's merely an observation based on the work and based on the commentary that I do. There are about two things that happened in recent history to us, particularly young people in the social media space. The first one was men are trash. The second one was cancel culture. And then cancel culture also raptured when Java was cancelled, right, due to a certain allegation made about him raping Lady Zama, I think.
Yes.
So, and this is the space where, as a 30-year-old woman, I started seeing boys as young as Boma 18, 17, entering discussions about, you know, bodily autonomy, sexual violence, who they are as men and who the female counterparts are as women, and how we navigate such spaces. From the side, and I think that's around the same time we started sort of defining what feminism is for us as young black women. So you'd have young black women from political formations such as the EFF, who were like super radical, and young women from the Young Women's League of the ANC sort of entering those spaces as well. But you also have a culture, black Twitter, where a lot of feminists sort of enter the space and start having these discussions about, you know, around men are trash and around cancel culture and who must get cancelled. And I always think about the young men that are looking at these conversations and how they're formulating the ideas. I think about the young girls that are looking at these discussions and how they formulate the ideas. And whether we are formulating the ideas around a feminism that is black or a feminism that is African and that speaks to us as Africans as well. And I think that is where now the responsibility comes in. I don't know for who, but the responsibility comes in to also answer the question of exactly whose feminism is it? Is it our feminism as educated black women who understand and speak English and drink wines and, you know, is it just for us? Or is it a feminism that you can sit down with your younger sister who still lives in the township, who still experiences township life? Or is it a feminism you can sit down with your young cousin who lives in rural South Africa and actually have a conversation about the violence that is happening around her and what she's supposed to do with that?
You know, the biggest challenge we have about this subject is how broad it is. You know, when you discuss feminism, you can't talk about one subject. The moment you delve into one, it actually just spreads out into various aspects of the conversation. Now we're speaking about African feminism. I thought about that and versus the European feminism. And in the installation there's Pinky's hair salon. And what triggered my emotion there was the hair pieces, of which for me, I personally have a problem with the views of the natural hair that the African woman has to deal with. Previously, when we started the Model C element, that's post-1994, at the high schools, they were very strict when it comes to the hair. You know, you can't have Abashoni's hair. You know, the dreadlocks, or immediately he would have been arrested because he looks illegal. You know, and if you have it as a woman, you are untidy, it's unkept, you know. And then we were taught to trim the hair, and then no extensions allowed, because for some odd reason, that's just so yuck. But now growing up, there is an element of lack of pride, for me, and I'm looking at it, lack of pride when it comes to my black sisters who are not able to carry their natural hair. And I want to hear the audience view as well on that. And men would rather be investing. I remember some guy saying to me, hey, we cheap date, man, because the Brazilian, I could spend a chelete. You know, I don't know whether that was supposed to be a compliment, but I felt insulted, you know what I mean? Why? You know, so I want to understand your view when it comes to African hair from both sides. I mean, that on its own, there's an oppression that comes with our hair, and it's very difficult. You know, some guy also said to me, all right, you know, I'm okay. O ka re motho a ka go isa saluni. And then at that time, I feel like ke ntshitse ka ga monkey, you know, ke on.
Wait, I'd like to just add a very interesting point to that too, which I think now also speaks to the internal conversation. I'm a woman with dreads. I've realized the minute I got dreads, I'd be more respected, to be fair. And to myself, am I more respected because Rastafarians live a very respectful life as men to their women? Or is it because people just think I smoke weed? And when I thought about it, it was cultural. Why are Rastafarian women held like this natural? So when we speak about natural hair, it's like there's a natural hair and the performance of wigs and slave queens and weaves. Yeah. But Rastafarians, no matter where you go in the world, it's like there's a certain way that women are treated. So even in a taxi rank, I never thought in a taxi rank someone would be like, oh, what would they say? A child lady. Yeah, ooh, child lady or nah. And it's like, so if I have any other hair, I'm unrespected. And then if I do, and that one I think doesn't even have to do with hair. I think that goes even deeper. Is it like, so that's where my question sits. Why are then people with like, because men with dreads are treated a very different way within the working space.
Criminals.
But then exactly. But then to be respected more, because dreads, it was just something that I came into that I never ever, that's when I got dreads, and that's, so I think it plays on the perception that we all have of our experiences. And why are Rastafarians thought a certain way?
And the corporate environment declares the weave and the wigs and the extensions more acceptable and more pretty, more professional versus this. Yeah. This you look like you need help. Yeah. And
I've had two experiences with my short hair, right? So the first experience happens in the streets of Pretoria Central, where the hairdressers on the street, and I understand there's a capitalism element to it. Like they'll hound you. My sister, extension, look, it looks nice, whatever. But the day I switch it up and wear a weave, peace in South Africa. For me, no one bothers you about that because all of a sudden you don't need our services because you have your weave on, you are fine. That is the first experience. The second one, because I also teach at a University of Technology, at Tshwane University of Technology. So I always have experiences with two sets of people, with the students and with the security guards. When I enter the gate in my formal clothes, going to teach or going to the office, the security will always assume I'm a student when I have my short hair on, because for some reason I look younger with the short hair on, or I look like a child, or I look like a student, right?
Or you look like you need help.
Yes. But when I have my weave on, I look older, I'm more prepped, I'm more professional, and she's definitely a lecturer in the space. So and the students do the same thing, guys. Like, one student even went as far as saying, oh my gosh, she looks like a student. She said it in Swati, but I could register what she was. She looks like a student. Short hair, but on the day, by extension, I was wearing sweatpants and I wasn't doing the whole formal thing because, I mean, you know. So I think the issue of hair ties in significantly also with the issue of class. To say that, and race, because hair is also such a big issue for black women in particular, where we always have to negotiate the issues to say, but I really want to wear my dreads, or I really want to wear my short hair, and I require the court to acknowledge me as a grown-up and as an advocate of the court, and I don't need to wear my weave for that. So I think it's also an issue of class, and it's an issue of race as well.
Any views from the floor? There's a gentleman there. I know the whole world, but when I don't see you, I can't mention you by name. Sorry. Please, sir. The mic, please. Okay, can you project? Do remember to share our link on YouTube. Yes, we're having fun, and I'd like a poet to come through, my second poet, so that we take a bit of a breather. After the poetry, do you need a break? The thing is, I'm chasing time. Do we still have curfew?
Yes.
What time?
12.
No, we're not going to sit here until midnight, but remember, we started a little bit late, so I'm very time conscious, and the little ones must go to bed at some point. So, yes, gentlemen.
Kwa marago go se la se go sata sa fa banna magogwa mamadi ge se tlabe se ba boja se ile sa re monna ke moja go be o ja ka ke pe yo le jo ton tata tja dira gore
I've sent it to
banna
the
ba
group.
ba itibelele le batho ba go dumo yuane ya tla re isha kwa pe go ba swara tipa ka bagale ge ba ile ba phegola sona seema seo ge ba se phegola ba tla ba re monna ke selepe re adimišana yeo yona ba be ba e bolela bjalo ka lebaka la gore ba lebeletše gore banna ba a hlaelela ba e lebeletše bjalo ka lebaka la gore bona re se nene jwale ga re nene le ba bantši le lego ba bantši re le bona motlao e be ka se be ka phošo go ebile ke phošo ke re tla be re bolela ka ge banna ba bantši ba kwana le go tšea ka mmušo a kgogo yeo le nna ke tloga ke re ge e šaetšegile e dirile ke gore yo a re tlhotšego Ramasedi a hlola monna a modia gore e be sebabo banna ba re a bajwa sebabo se le gore banna re a bajwa ge re ile le mebele rena ga ya itekanela banna ba a bajwa
Ke mathomo ke kwa monna a bolela nnete.
ba buša ke lebaka la gore ga ba swane le ka mokgotlhago ile go ya ka ya ba ka ntse ge monna a etša e mongwe a sa tsogelwe o kwa botlhoko o a bajwa o rata ge nka ba ka tsogela a re go tlhoma lerungwana la sebe le mo le ka tlhaba go ntshe a kwa botlhoko
Hey!
gore yeo e lolaetša gore banna ba a bajwa mehle ka mehla ge o ka no ba botšiša ge motee wa bona a ka fetša matšatši a mahlano a sa tsogele a ke tlela re mamotlha re tlo di bolela ge a ka fetša matšatši a mahlano lerumo le la gago le sa loutšege o tloga a ipotšiša gore na yena ke motho wa mohuta mang o a bajwa.
Let me interject because there seems to be a bit of confusion there. Before we take a break, let me have Machwenik join me. But I think there's a level of confusion here. Please, can you indulge me, please, ma'am? Okay, I'm going to cut you short because you are bordering quite sensitive issues. I'm not sure whether wa sa loutše jwanong o tshwantše dio ya a ke kwešiše.
Good evening. Well, I wanted to comment on the hair, but he touched on a few very sensitive issues over
Yeah.
I'm a closer woman from the Eastern Cape, grew up in Polokwane, and my husband was a baby. And the Munna Wabajwa part was used on me based on his ill treatment. So when you approach your in-laws, and like, man, this guy would do so. But I want to okay.
Oh.
But my thing is, as a woman, I don't deserve a cripple.
Yes. Yes.
I deserve a man that understands.
Yes.
I deserve a man that will understand. Hey, this thing that you're doing, I ain't trying to share.
Yes.
So now for me to go back and then
Mwabajwa.
if Wabajwa, honey, there is a mental institution I can take you to. But I am not going to sit down that I am raising a boy child.
Yes.
I'm not going to allow my child to grow up with that mentality. I want Munna Wabajwa, Munna Kisohole. No. I am raising 3 boys. And I want to stand up one day as a mother of 3 sons and say, well, God damn it, girl, you did well. Yeah. That's what I want. And I will not compromise on my children, my offspring, just because somebody came with a lame excuse. I want
Banna ba go ba jwa re kgopela gore ba emelle batho ka mo ba ye docteng.
We cannot hide culture and say no. When I was left as a 24-year-old with 3 kids, and everybody's like, no, for what? I'm not trying to cut my hands off holding on to a man that is not holding on to me.
Yes. Nice one.
We need to change some mindsets up in this place. We need to raise responsible young men. Yeah, guys, no, we cannot.
Samantha, you've got your hand up, and Machweni come through. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really chasing time. I don't know how you feel about this. I have got one more subject that I need to interrogate, which is the idioms and the terms. Jabo musadu twaratipa ka bogaling ba fetwa le libitla la musadi la ko bogadi. That is our last topic. Do we take a break? Do we finish it off? Wrap it up, and we finish it off. Samantha, let's go. Machweni, come join me. After Samantha, let's take a breather with Machweni, and then we will wrap it up.
My issue mostly goes like there's always 2 sides to the whole thing. Everyone needs to take what they can from it. What they can take from it. So I think you chose something from what you were saying that you did not like.
Yeah.
So I think there were valid points, and if something strikes you that hurts you, then you decide that is not worth sharing. This is where the issues between you and the women come from.
Yeah.
So I think he needs to explain himself and say what he was saying in his presentation now, because he did not touch on new things that spoke of advantages of a female being the same thing, that we all dictate what works for each of our genders, if this is a gender conversation. So I think let's hear chat and let's not pick and choose what's worth listening.
No. I definitely agree with you. All I was doing is, the feedback I'm getting from the audience to accommodate. I've got a hand here, ma'am.
Hi. I have stage fright, so I'm going to sit down so that I don't collapse. So I think what happened with the Gentleman Day is something that we've been talking about this week with regards to De Klerk, about how he missed an opportunity to tell the truth and to say what's right. So when you say that we cut him off and we didn't give him an opportunity, we did. And he missed the opportunity talking about nothing. And I think it's important that we radicalize such spaces, because they're about learning and they're about teaching. When you find a man...
let's give each other an opportunity. I think Samantha, I hear your point with what you're saying. However, when somebody communicates and others respond, whether it is in the positive or the negative, we've got to give each other an opportunity to understand. And ma'am, you were explaining yourself.
So when I say it was a missed opportunity, we were talking about here a beautiful topic which talks about the politics, the politicization, and the weaponization of black women's hair, right? And there was a question that was posed. If he didn't want to answer the question, he should have spoken about what exactly he wants to talk about and why that is important.
I don't think his job was to answer a question so much as to express himself. I think that it's really important for people to be able to. We say men can't talk, and then when they talk, we judge it according to our own opinion. So I think that
but we started late.
He is able to feel the way he's able to feel, but he doesn't have to respond to things, which I get can be.
Okay. All right. I'm going to close this one off, right? And then, Machweni, point taken. Machweni, please take us through. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very concerned about our time. So we're going to have Machweni then give ourselves exactly 15 minutes to wrap it up, because we did start very late. Machweni? None.
For my loving father who's no longer with us. One, I imagine myself pretty, a sky with no beginning or ending, a Nile with beautiful dreams and laughter, Kanana, land of honey and milk too. I will choose to be in spaces that embrace me, whose corners light up even when I have left 3. There will be mirrors all over the house, uncovered. And I will look at myself over and over and over again for. I will pick lovers who want to love me with the lights on and windows open, who are not afraid to say my name from across the room 5. There is space and room for me. Thank you. Tawela. This next poem is called Black Girl Magic. Nonyana tepedi odimu wa setlare, ye nngwe ke mantsho, ye nngwe ke moshweu, halala mantsho, halala moshweu, buya mantsho, buya moshweu, buya mantsho, buya mantsho, buya mantsho. In these streets, there is no magic, just black girl too ugly to ever reject attention, because when you have nothing, even the worst things are for you. Buya mantu, buya mantu, buya mantu. The songs they sang about your grandmothers will now be sang about you. You will be prophecy, old, ugly, and black, a witch. Buya mantu, buya mantu, buya mantu. Thank you. This one is called Feminism Mansplained. Radical is a trap. It means come forth so you can die. Means die in full view of the world, because someone must make an example of you. Means no one is coming to save you. Means black pain and feminist lynching. Means only men do radical things. The woman must always be the decorative idea of the struggle. Always strong and tolerant, like their mothers and grandmothers. Radical is a trap. It means your clit does not exist. Thank you. The next one is called Tlhabela Pele. They named me after my grandmother while she was still alive. When the sun sets, we would all run from the darkness, like the moths we sought out to be, with love and laughter being passed down. When time was still small enough to fit in their palms, she would tell us about her youth. How a boy once killed a wild animal by calling out her name. See, your names are only beautiful when covered in filth. This is in relation to how you looked in infancy. Children like you were either hidden or killed. You are not for the world's consumption. Your grandfather sends you to the farm to chase away the birds and the insects. You are scarecrow on a good day, and on others, a folk tale. The village children hide behind their mothers' dresses, point and cry, because their mothers told them that you would come for them in their sleep if they do not finish their food. There is a rumor that you turn into a monster when the sun sets. Big and tall, the size of 6 goats. Your grandfather has built you a cage next to where the pigs feed. See, even them in their filth do not say your name. Thank you. This one is from my book, Trigger Warning. It's called Ownership. Men are such invasive lovers. Always want things to belong to them. Always looking to take credit. And when they cannot, they take lives. Men are like religion with their materialism, holding on to the memory of that thing they did for you in 1993. Talking about how they are the cornerstone of your being, the reason you still have lungs while blowing the smoke of that 50-cent cigarette in your face. They will never love you the way they love their mothers. And we all know how mothers love their sons, would go to the ends of the world for their sons, always tolerate and coddle these boys. Always do this and that for your brother. He's a man. so you must worship him. Mothers worship their sons. Who do we blame in a world filled with boys that have seesaws for hands, going up and down in their disposition, wanting ownership of everything just because they are boys? Thank you. I'm doing my last poem. It's called Black Bodies. It is cold here in the townships. So we sit around the fire and keep ourselves warm and talk about our grandmothers. A bonfire of failed dreams and traumatic realities. It is cold here in the townships. Black bodies swinging. Black bodies dancing. Black bodies stripping. Black bodies falling. Nobody's caring. 'Cause black body woman. The sunsets here are so beautiful, but someone's daughter will be raped and killed tonight. Thank you.
The trauma. Just thinking about that. Actually, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, please remember to share our link on YouTube. And we are wrapping this thing up, this conversation up. And you know what? The robust engagement that takes place is encouraged. We can't, through conversation, always agree with one another. We can't always follow what the next person says is right, and therefore it is right. If you have something that you feel that you disagree with, this is an open space and platform where you are allowed to say, no, I disagree with that, you know. So rest assured you are in a safe space, and it's a good thing sometimes to call each other, to reprimand each other in conversation. It definitely is. If you feel it's in your potornyof that this one is going that way, this is a platform for you to do that. So let's wrap it up, my dear panelists. I've got an issue, my last issue that I wanted us to touch on is the idioms that very gentleman who was controversial picked up on. And are there medical doctors in the house? Okay. And what's about Dr. Chlopsky and he doesn't raise his hand there? Why Lisa Imsimazo? Doctor, I've got a question for you. Are there any medical doctors in the house? Yeah, there he goes. This gentleman raised something very interesting. So can you clarify, medically, is it true that men are just sexually sick? Just a quick one. Just really, I really want to know, because this issue of rape, this issue of munna ke slepe, this issue of a man just it's not a foreign concept. It's something that really we need to understand, whether we're dealing with medical issues here or banna are spoiled.
Thanks, Letao. I mean, medically speaking, I think so far as we have it now, statistically, I don't think there's anything that women don't suffer from, besides maybe a few things here like erectile dysfunction.
Thank you.
But there's nothing else. I think what we're dealing with here is things that we have to undo, mainly traditionally and learned from childhood, that just have to change in keeping with the times and era that we're living in.
Awesome.
Men just have to come to the party, in short. Days Misha, Orema, those days have come and gone, in short. Medically speaking, there's no grounds for that. Thanks.
So the last issues that we're interrogating is the idioms and the sayings and the terms that oppress the woman. I know we won't be able to throw the mic around, but you are allowed to shout it out. I've got Lefetwa, that's the one that's not married. Sfebe, when you have more than one sexual partner, but when the man does it, he is the dog, he's the one. And Mam Gopozi, return soldier, yes. Village bicycle, yes. Mopa. Yes, Toro. Umfazwe pepper. What else? There's nothing nice there. Yeah. They're all derogatory.
Guys are horrible.
Even when it comes to, let's say you are angry and unyaka go roga motho o mo felletse o mo tlhapaole o mo roga ka di privates tša bo mmagwe, not tša bo papagage ka ban re tlhompha banna. You can't say that about a man. Even on television, you see the boobs more, you see the vagina more, but you can never see the penis. Why? Not that I'm saying we want to see it, we won't mind, but I'm saying why is it okay for just the media to be going at women like that? You are not even able to protect your little girls from such. So what I wanted to figure out from everybody is when did it become okay for us to accept being called mafetwa, difebe, miopa, all of that? And is it possible for us to change it or to stop it? And if it is, how do we go about it?
There's a concept I learned when I was studying the theory, this feminist from the US, Bariki Judith Butler. She talks about performativity, to say, with gender we are performing. No one is anything when they are born. A gender is assigned to you, and then from then on you start performing those roles. And I realized as time went on that performative nature of gender is accompanied in our society by what we call the male gaze. The male gaze is the ideas that are concocted about women that are created in the mind of a man. So, for example, those idioms are a product of the male gaze, in that you are able to say, no, I have to be able to justify how I can't control my sexual urges by saying that, but at the same time, you want to say, but I mean, the contradiction is amazing. So, so it's also manufactured in the same factory, the male gaze. But the male gaze also says, Musima is more beautiful, or Musima is better. Actually, Musima is febe, because she did 1, 2, 3 for me. Or she performs her femininity in a way that suits me as a man. Zoto Abantu is the worst because, oh my gosh, how does she just toss it around like that? Because I don't benefit from it. But all these things are created in the factory of the male gaze. And the male gaze is not just the eye of men, but it's also the eye of us women looking at other women.
Yes.
Where we have the audacity, without even knowing a person's history or a person's life story, to say, Kilefeto or return soldier. A returned soldier who survived death at the hands of a man that she entrusted with her life. And when you have the audacity to say that she's a returned soldier. So the male gaze is a factory that we're all victims to when we start judging women and giving them names based on what we think a pure, perfect woman should be. A typical example is Mama Winnie Mandela, who has given of her entire life, but we still choose to look at what is horrible about her. The fact that she slept with this person, which is none of our business, by the way, because even you have your skeletons, but you can't allow yourself to exalt and put a woman up there because of this factory of the male gaze that controls, that is us trying to control the behavior of women. To say you can't rise to 1, 2, 3 when I'm Sima, you slept with this person and that person. When I have earned my stripes, I've done my work. But no, you slept with 1, 2, 3. You can't. And we only do that to our women. Men can sleep, apparently. They can do whatever they want, go out there, bring back diseases into the home. But us, it's a whole other story. So it's a disease that we have as society and we need to deal with it.
Yeah. All right. Yes, ma'am.
I think it's okay. I'm audible enough.
Yes.
And another thing that happens is because of this sayings and this ideology,
There's the mic.
essentially philosophies.
Yeah.
They do not only affect us in professional spaces, they also affect us in intimate relationships.
Yes.
For example, for me, I've experienced it. As much as we've moved away from those sayings, in public we say we're against those sayings, but how we act in relationships is informed by those sayings.
Yeah.
Women are naturally, we are the nurturers, you know?
Yeah.
We're the healers.
The caregivers.
A woman can't, in a relationship, be the one who says, but this is nonsense.
Mm.
We can't stand for it.
Mm.
She has failed as her role as a woman. If her relationship fails, it's the woman. She failed to nurture the man. She failed to be patient with the man. So we still tolerate it. Essentially, we still follow the same philosophies and teachings that our mothers were taught, but we do it in silence now. We're not proud to own those sayings because we know they're not correct, but we're also not renewed in our minds and our spirits. We haven't moved away from those philosophies because our same mothers are the ones who still advise us. The same people who follow those sayings are the ones who tell us, no, just keep going. You know, you can still do it. So what I'm saying is women should not only move away from, we should not be radical in our public spaces where we are having these conversations. We should also have an intimate knowledge and acceptance of the fact that those philosophies and those teachings do not serve us as women.
Yeah.
So we can fully express ourselves in intimate relationships. Amma must be the woman she is in every space. I can't be a beast in my professional space and suddenly in a relationship, oh my, no, you're so caring. No, you need to be yourself. So let's move away from just performing our radical feminist positions, but we should have an intimate acceptance of it. That way we can easily teach that teaching or those philosophies to a new generation. Because you can't have a new generation that has a renewed mind when it's not an intimate truth. It must be in truth and in spirit. Everything must be in truth and in spirit. We can't keep being intellectual in as far as these topics.
Yeah.
It must be an intimate truth.
Yeah.
I love that. I've got a, yes, let me.
It's the spirit. It's the spirit. It's not me. It really was the spirit. I didn't touch it.
I didn't touch anything. No, I'm just trying to figure out. Yes, ma'am. And before you do that, Sibongile, can you come through, please, because you're going to be closing this session for us.
Woo. Okay. This is a very interesting topic. My mother has 3 girls, and she has 3 granddaughters, and then I have 4 granddaughters. So we are. There's just a lot of women in one household with just one boy. My biggest concern out of the whole conversations that we've had is how do we change the mentality, and how do we groom our young girls to be woke enough to know that what Say was saying, or banna ba lwala, and that those are just things that you should not stand for. How do we shape the young girls to know that no is no? How do we shape the young girls? Because I feel like I need to actually throw it back to the panel, to your panel as well, to say, because I've heard at some point in the beginning where both Mas Chaba and the advocate were saying that like men banna ba na le go se tsebe gore ba dirile a mistake, right? But I think at that point they would have heard the no. At that point they would have seen the woman cry. At that point they would have seen the woman bleed, and they still think it's okay. And how do we then identify gore monna o ga tsebe gore ba diang? How do we then say it's okay? Do you understand? The youngest baby in our household, she's only 2 years. It's a girl, and sometimes I feel so scared. Gore bana ba ge ba tswela ko ntle ba ya strateng, bana ba banyana ba utswiwa, bana ba banyana ba rape you and everything else. And it's such a scary world out there, and I feel like, can I just be a millionaire, buy a plot, cage them in until they are old enough?
Yes.
You know? What's one of these species that we want to say or they are sick, only because they're just protected by tradition. They are protected by denoms shahali. So yeah, that's.
I'd like to clarify one thing. In what Ausi said and what Abuti said, I think that it's very important as us when we introduced each other, like our roles we play. I'm an artist manager. The voice of artists is very important. So what he says, even if it goes against what she says, if he's able to express it in a way that is non-aggressive, that is opening, and she's able, I think that I just want to say that, Ausi, what you said was important and what he said is important. And the work I do is in facilitating important conversations that are very difficult. So sometimes when you acknowledge something that is difficult from someone else, people think, oh, then you're on that team. And this is the issue that you were saying with social media. Someone tweets something, you tweet back. We go so quickly. Rather than experiencing, like, for Homeboy to stand up and for him to give that situation that came from somewhere. And if we don't acknowledge that, then we shut it down. We're asking questions to men about how do men speak. Then a man speaks and we shut it down. But we also meant to speak up our conversations, as you said, and if something triggers you, then attack it completely. But if we don't have a healthy conversation and a healthy way of standing up, as your question leads you, how do we teach the young ones? The young ones learn from us. If they cannot sit in this conversation and hear people say controversial things to each other, then what are we doing? Myself and Sam were selling posters last week that were about fuck white people. And imagine, 2 black girls standing in front of a poster that says, fuck white people. White South Africans think one thing, Europeans think one thing. But at the end of the day, what our job is to represent expression within the arts. So I just wanted to say that to Ausi, because I feel like I tried to say that what you said was important. And when I said to you that what he was saying was important, it seemed like there's no choosing sides. Essentially, that's what we need to realize. There isn't.
Mercy, you're the last speaker.
All right, thanks.
Or is there a gentleman as well having? You are literally the last speaker.
Okay, in addressing the how do we question, from this gathering, one might assume that feminism could be the answer. But in practicality, people with this feminist agenda are just but a fraction of the larger population. So my question would rather be, this is basically from a statement that was said in a book by Jennifer Makumbi, First Woman. There's a paragraph where one of the characters says, feminism is for women in developed countries with first world problems. Now looking at that, the fact that feminism is followed by a fraction, and we also dealing with this issue of like, how do we promote our cultures as black people? Is there space in this world for where feminism and African culturalism can coexist.
Yeah.
And secondly, why do men always feel attacked when women try to fight for their rights? Like
There's something intimidating there.
And lastly, is it possible for men to celebrate women femininity without reducing it to an exposure of their bodies or sexualizing
Sexuality.
Something like feminism. So what does it have to do with naked women and stuff? Like, why not just use my pleasures? Why it's not a man or something? So why celebrating us always have to be reduced to exposing us and sexualizing us?
I think drawing boundaries is really important in terms of what the artists are doing here. I think that there is a visual language. There's a language that is words. And I think just because someone draws a naked body doesn't mean that's what they're thinking. There's also appreciation. You know, whenever we see naked, when men do naked things, sometimes they perform things, it doesn't mean that they're going against. Some men are, like not even some, all black men are kings. But in making art about it, he makes it historical.
All right. We're moving. You see, the thing about when I asked about curfew, and we're moving, my clock has struck 10 o'clock, and this conversation is only heating up now. So we have a problem. You're going to respond to Mercy. I'm going to close the floor discussion with the gentleman. This is the last of it. I'm sorry, Mr. Lekhanyane, I think we need to start discussing possibilities of engaging on a regular basis because this once-a-year business does not work. We're not going to change society once a year. This must be a regular engagement. And Mr. Letswalo Lengwe, somewhere there.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm going to keep my comment or my question quite short. So anybody who's done any sort of like reading about feminism or the theory itself knows about the first, second, and fourth wave of feminism. Yeah. But I think the most important question that everybody in this room needs to engage is what has the COVID-19 pandemic done to the progress of feminism, right? Because we see women constantly having to get out of jobs to go back home to be the nurturer. Again, because there's nobody else there, right? We are in lockdowns. Women are the first ones to take pay cuts at work. They're the first ones to even give up work, right? To play the same roles that we are saying men should play. Or in some instances, women who are even more, let's say, equal than others, could afford that sort of like childcare. Most can't. Right? So I think the most important conversation that we should have as well is what has the pandemic had on the progress of feminism itself? Thanks.
All right. So to the panelists, let's have our closing statements, and you're going to respond and close.
Okay. So when Mercy speaks about African culture and whether feminism is compatible with it, there's a scholar from Nigeria, she's a Yoruba woman called Oyeronke Oyewumi, who dabbles in gender studies and African studies. And her first line is, feminism was constructed in Europe and the issue of gender didn't exist in Africa. That's why, for example, in Sepedi culture, Rakgadi has such a high position, notwithstanding the fact that we say women are oppressed or subjugated. I think that as young women in this day and age, we take cue from basically two places. Number one, the idea that we have a history that was disrupted by colonization, oppression, and we need to grapple with that and try and understand what was lost and what do we still have. But the second thing is the idea that apartheid as a legal system, but also as a system that organized our society, separating us from fathers from their families, making women, heads of households, introducing diseases, and the scourge of violence in our society has reached a point where there's now a tug of war between the black woman and the black man, such that we have both assimilated into modernity And so we are now moving, as though we're white people, we're now in this Eurocentric space, but we're in South Africa. And we need to deal with that concept. On what he said about, COVID and how it has affected the standing of a woman in society, and I'll speak specifically about a black woman because bottom of the totem, we're the ones who are mostly affected by issues of class and poverty. I would say that it is again important for us to acknowledge the fact that feminism has to be able to stretch itself towards the space of class, particularly poor women. Like, guys, I work hard that we stop feminizing in English and we start feminizing in our own languages so that we can be able to hear each other. But I think it's a work in progress and something that we need to...
Yeah. I'm so sorry. I don't know why this always happens. Just this is the last hour that we get passionate about things. So in closing, wrap it up. Feminism, Yamang.
In closing, I think we all have a responsibility, those who claim to be feminists, not only to do the internal work and work on ourselves, but to consistently engage with men, either in very radical ways because some just don't listen, or in very tender ways because some are still learning. But also there's another important discussion that we didn't enter, and that is that of queer theory or queer bodies. People who identify as gay, lesbian, the alphabet gang, So that is something that we also need to do, and there are myths that it's not African or whatever, not true. So I think that is another discussion when we're discussing feminism later. Perhaps we should open it up because, our people are dying, but they're our people and they live in our families and in our spaces.
Mr. Makhato, let's close it.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank everyone who contributed to the discussions. I've learned so much. I will do some of self-retrospect and retrospection. And in closing, thank you so much for educating me about feminism some more. Thank you.
Mas Chaba, your last words? You don't want to end it, ne? It feels like we're moving towards something.
It's still working. I thought that my closing comment is going to reference you. You know how people say, like, oh, women, at some point there's waves of feminism? Like, silence was women being submissive. You're going to be silent and you're going to learn. So so often people think that what we're performing is a note of character, and it's not. It's survival. So my last note is that rather than judging each other's opinions, let's look at the circumstances we need to survive before we really try to put it on. And let's not also follow what everybody else says, rather than think it for ourselves. So this is what feminism yamang, that's why it's called feminism yamang. All of you in here, ke feminism yamang. So we really beg you to ask the question, whose feminism is it? And who owns the word? And in linguistics, why don't we have our own word of it? So that's my closing. Think about it for yourself.
All right. Sibongile, please come through. From my side, I think I will give my final thank yous and closings after Sibongile. And I did promise, Mr. Khanyani helped me as well, the profiles. These profiles must be accessible to the public. I'm sure everybody that's in the house would love to know more about these artists. And Musima, I'm also going to be challenging you just before I close it up.
Cool. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to everyone for your patience. Kalibito ke Sibongile Fisher, and I'm happy to be in Polokwane. I hail from Joburg. So I'm happy to be here. It's been a successful day. We're all tired, so just give me 10 minutes of whatever's left in your brains, and let's go through it. But before I get into that, I was sitting there and mulling over the discussion that is being had, and I think there's always a fine line when we're having such discussions where we tend to what Musima spoke about earlier, we tend to then be reactional in our existence, and then lean into the male gaze.
Yeah.
And the conversation was then hijacked to be more about men and how men interact with feminism than how we as women are actually dealing with it, which to another lady, I think, was a very missed opportunity, especially with all the young girls in the room. Yeah. But I guess it's a lesson for next time. Cool. I'm going to read a few poems for you. Just let me know if I'm audible. I can't fully hear myself, so I'm hoping Lankuk. My surname cuts through my tongue like a foreign object. My father says it's his. His father says it's his. My mother carries it with pride and rolls her tongue to bend in positions acceptable for the language I write in. My heart is in a foreign world, aging into an angel, and I am dust and angry of splitting. I count to 10 in my mother tongue and wish to spell the words right. I hold on to the image of my mouth spilling out a poem in Sesotho, but as a child in a classroom as big as our kitchen, I learned to speak in ways that would give my surname its rightful place. I learned to count in the language I write in. I burn my God in other tongues and make room for the one who will speak to me in languages I write in. I give birth in isiZulu, but mother in English. I catch myself and bring my tongue back home. Home. Here, my surname is an unanswered question. We are landlocked with our identity between seas, dispossessed in the mouths of others. But at home, I am taught to be thankful instead. If memory serves me right, my surname is the birth of a historical wound, and we hang off the family tree, having forgotten how we bled, how it was received, silenced by the privilege it offers. But at home, I'm taught to say thank you instead. Thank you. This next piece is called Bloodbath, and it's a dedication to all the mothers out there who've given birth. It's not, I think if you haven't seen a woman give birth or you haven't given birth, you won't understand that it's not as precious as people make it out to be. It's not a clean scene, basically. My back arcs into another world. Pain pulls strength through a needle's eye. I am threading you as I become undone, unwounded into the softest, boneless smile. You, a body of water made human by time, passed through me and cracked open the shell of life, a war welded sublime, passed through me and made generous my ugly, made sound the death of my youth. Snaked through me a canal of carnal cravings, crossing cruelty, creasing my cardiac muscle, made vile. This blood, unsettling the shore with tide, pulling away the past, broke brutally the broody branches of bravery, hanging low enough to kiss the skin of flowing water, passed through me to mold a river at last, to rest on the riverbed and know that life knows you. Thank you. Thank you. This next piece is trigger warning. It's about rape, so I apologize in advance. I'm wearing a short skirt. My thighs are slow cooking in the sun. We're having fun. Well, at least that's what I think. But they keep gossiping about me. Apparently, they speak rape language. These scrawny women on my mother's stoop playing cards as I walk these streets. Every shuffle removes a day off my lifetime. These used up whores, how dare they speak in tongues my mother never taught me? In my own house. My skirt catcalls the corner guy. I turn. It whispers, sex.
in his humdrum ears. I hear nothing of it. Instinctively, I pull it down. It goes to war. He approaches. I tell him my thighs have a language of their own, one seemingly understood by men. We did not mean to disturb him. He smiles. My politeness against his intrusion is a cultural joke I just don't get. His eyes light up. Bonfires kissing bone. I find myself missing the fields, even though all I've ever known is concrete. I'm on the floor, he's on top of me. I'm drowning in a bar far away. Drink me up! I scream. He dashes off. My winter leave. He left a building on top of me. I'm folding into a tunnel. Stone on stone, burning bone, and it won't leave. This wrecked train of vandalized pain. I look at my skirt. It shies away. I lean over to pick up my breath. We're both silent. My thighs are ripe. The sun begins to burn. It smells like ash. I ask, what have we done? To which my skirt replies, nothing. Thank you. This next piece is called The Language of Sacrifice, the Memory of Water, and it's dedicated to all the people who have difficult mother-daughter relationships like myself. My mother is from a place where the desert and the mine meet. Every drop of water is a bleeding sigh from mercury, and when buckets are full or heads are done, the tap gets on her last nerve. Her chapped lips would move in restriction, and we would watch, my brother and I, as she peels off her ugly and hands it down to us, a war token for things unspoken. One of us is dying, the other one thirsty to love her, but we can't fill his shoes symbolic of his absence. I doubt she wants us to. So we pull her back to motherhood. This little girl with an absent father and an absent lover. The men in her life are like the water from her hometown, always there but never available. The first glass leaves a taste in your mouth. It takes days, sometimes months, even years to get accustomed to the flavor, to his absence. In a place named Valcom by a man who claims he found it empty. My great-grandmother is rotting into the finest gold, and my mother would clear her eyes to water my grandmother's soul just so that something grows, something that we could own. Gold Fields has water that stings like slavery, and my tongue is one with Joburg City. Small town ramblings. In Tabong, we argue in Sesotho, but here at home, I calm down in English. The tap keeps dripping. She complains about the bill. I call the plumber. A Bible flaps open and a bird loses its wings. She's preparing for the mountain. Her longings are buried deep in the mysteries of him leaving. She thinks it's witchcraft. It must be for a man to walk out on his family, the voodoo of his feet, chasing his dreams without us, without her. The cup is almost full. Our hearts are empty. I wish we were at the coast with the ocean at our feet, but we are inland and hurting. All she ever does is pray to Saint Engenas. All I ever do is pray that love pardons us. We are both kneeling with our heads to the ground and our backs against the sky. I am 6 foot deep into her pain, grave and old. I am growing old. Still waters pool at the back of our throats. We wade through the words. To survive the silence, we turn over with our legs spread wide, hers for his absence and mine for my lover, with the river cool aura, the kind that says, I'll come if you stay. I break open a cloud and multiply the peace. A stream is born and on its way home it rains, comes gushing, flooding everything. She smiles. I survive the drowning, so does she. The plumber fixes the tap. She licks her lip. I drink from her fountain. She's a coal stove love of a worn-out youth. I offer her a sip from my juice. Thank you. And then I'm going to do my last piece, and then I think I'll give over to you, and then we are done, guys. Then you can go drink, those who drink. This piece is titled The River Remembers. The river slowly swallows the softness of time and carries it home to the big, big ocean. The woman is the river, running in and out of oceans of love into lands of acceptance and rejection. The woman is human first and woman after. The man pulls the woman into a puddle for his amusement, at times an oasis to quench his never-ending thirst for power. The woman tirelessly kneads the dough of life. Her existence baked under harsh suns and ungrateful men, she multiplies her forgiveness to break the cloud and survive on the bread of life another day. The woman is human first and woman after. But the man is man first and human after. The river swiftly sweeps past solid rocks and bends the belly of sharp grass. The river grows a body and shapes itself a new world, quickly cutting past the thickness of male gaze. The river remembers. There is more to being a river, to quenching a nation, to quelling your anger by stilling your waters. You've got to run, run, run. Be a wave today and a drop of rain tomorrow. Roar from the belly of your rage. Dance with the moon. It is your right. Grow things, destroy things. Let the sun have its fun. Then run, run, run and heal things. Come crashing on minds that hunger and swallow them whole. Heal yourself. Reclaim your land. You are a body of complexities, a science of creation, creating creative creators and conquering conquests of your crucial existence. Run, run, run. Embrace your essence. Break into a stream and flow in the direction of your dreams. Puddle at the altar of your power and drink up. Yeah. Run, run, run. Collapse into a waterfall of perfectly flawed and purposely adorned wonder. Rest, if you must, in a lake of splendor, and soak up broody Mother Nature to be lifted and dropped, born a river again. The river folds into the ocean and passes through its heart. The woman is the river, unlearning the bend and learning the flow.
Okay, I think that brings us to the very, very end of this session, and I must thank Polokwane Municipality for such a great, great opportunity. The artists, the poets, you are amazing. Continue doing the great work. And those that have drawn spectacular pieces, thank you. Wow. Wow, yes, no, something else. Amazing, amazing stuff. And to our legend, Mr. Abashoni, hey, your presence is mostly appreciated. And everybody that is here, yes. I still say this conversation, we just barely started it. We just hit the tip of it. And I humbly put a request to Mr. Lekhanyani, to Mr. Letswalo, that we need, as a community, a platform to continue these kind of conversations on a regular basis. Our children need it. We need it. Our men need it. Our women need it. So to the representatives of the Goethe Institute, that's Samantha and Maschaba, thank you so much for the opportunity that you have afforded us. And Advocate, I can't tell why you are bawling your eyes out. I think maybe you're crying for an opportunity to recite a poem, because you are a poet. Yeah, so can I get here? So with that, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, time is really not on our side. I think, as Africans, we need to learn something about time management. We miss out on a lot by not respecting time, because had we started on time, we would be far by now. Yeah. So in the future, let's make sure that we keep to what we have declared. So from me, Lethabo Ramokgopa, I promise you I'm going to push for this platform to continue. It's not going to be a
Ladies and
once-a-year
gentlemen.
thing. So with that, thank you so much and have a fantastic evening later.
It has been a live presentation of the 9th edition of the Polokwane Literary Fair in collaboration with the Goethe Institute, Feminism Yamang, Feminism Yani, Feminism Year 2. You've been a wonderful audience. Let's meet next year with our 10th anniversary celebrations. It will be bigger, it will be better. We'll recall all the participants of the past years. We'll have all the conversations. If it has to take us the whole month, we'll do it. Thank you very much. Do enjoy the rest of the grapes that have been reserved for you and have a safe journey home. And please let the conversation continue in your heart and in your mind. Thank you very much. Good night.